In this video, we are going to make some design refinements on the related posts page. The first of them is that I want us to remove the margin at the top of these tables so that we can reduce the space between the table and the elements on top of them. So let us go to our code base, and the first thing I want us to do is to remove these empty spaces in our code. And then now we go to the admin table div element that wraps these two tables, and we will add a new class called twin tables. Okay, now this new class, we're going to move the inline styles to this new class we just defined in our style file. So we will open admin style.css and we'll look for the section where we defined our styles for tables. We scroll to the bottom of this section. We will meet the table pagination section. We'll scroll past that as well. And then at the bottom of that section, we will define a new section for twin tables. Okay, so let us select the twin tables class we added, and then we paste the inline styles that were initially on that element. Okay, so this has basically done the same thing as before. If we refresh the page, we still see the same interface as before, so no change has really been made. Okay, now let us begin with removing the margin top. So I'm going to select the twin tables, and then inside twin tables we have two tables. So any element or any table element within that will set the margin top to 0 pixels. Then when we refresh, that margin is gone. Now we are unsetting the margin that was initially on this table. This margin was being set up here. We were setting a margin top of 16 pixels on any table element inside the admin table. So this is basically overriding that value. So the next design change we need to make here is to reduce the width of this serial numbering. Okay, because it is too big right now. All it does is display the count or the number of table rows that are available. Okay, so we're going to set a CSS class on this particular column, and then set a smaller width for the column. So let us go to our related posts.html. Okay, so on both tables we'll give it a class of, let me just call it small colon, because it's a column whose size will reduce. I'll copy this and make sure that I set it not only to the header but also to the data itself on the table body. And while we are here, I think it's not really doesn't really look good when we have only one record on our table. So I'm going to select this table row within the table body and duplicate it. And then I will set the count or the serial numbering to 2. And then make sure the title also reflects that it's a second article. Okay, now let us move on to the other table, the related posts table. We will set the small column class to the serial numbering column, and then we do the same to the data for that particular column. And then I also want to duplicate the row here and modify it accordingly so that it has 2 rows. Okay, with that, let us refresh, and we have 2 rows on each table. Now let us define the style for small column. I'm going to copy this style, and since it looks like a style that can be reused in other places in our code, I'm going to define it under default styles. So let us scroll to the top where we have our default styles, and at the bottom of this section we're going to add a new selector for small column, and we'll give it a width of 40 pixels. If we go back to our browser and refresh, it reduces the width of the serial numbering column and it looks better now. Okay, so that is the second design refinement we have done. The next one is to add some icons to our table rows. As you can see on the finished project, on the all posts table, we have a double check mark icon, and for this other related posts table, when you hover on a table row, an X or a close icon appears. Okay, so let us look for these icons on our icon pack. We'll begin with the double check mark icon. You can just search for check mark, and then you click on the double check mark icon, grab the snippet of code for that icon, and then back in our related posts.html file, we will go to the all posts section and we will create another small column, that is a table data element with a class of small column, and paste this code inside it. Okay, we are going to also give this icon a class of checkmark icon, and since we have two rows on this table, I will also copy this table data and add it to the second row. Okay, if we go back to our browser and we refresh, we can see our check marks appearing. We will do a similar thing for the close icon. So let us search for close in our icon pack. We click on the icon, grab the snippet, and then the same way we did for the all posts table, we are going to come here and add a small column table data, and inside that we will paste the icon and we'll give it a class of close icon, and make sure we do the same thing for the second row on this table. Okay, we go back and we refresh, and this icon has appeared also. Alright, so the next thing I want us to style is when you hover on each of the rows on these tables, it's going to highlight them so that you can clearly see which table you're about, or which table row or which item on the table you're about to click. Okay, so the table rows we are interested in highlighting when the user hovers on is the table rows we have inside the table body tag. So the ones in the head section we are not interested in, we don't highlight them, as you can see here. Okay, so we are going to select, let's go back to the styles, the section of styles where we define the twin table styles. So we are going to select, make sure we add the table body to make sure that we are selecting the table rows. We are selecting only the table rows that are within table body. And of course, we are applying these styles when the user hovers on them, so we will add the hover selector. So here, what we will do is we'll give that table row a border of 1 pixel solid this color, and then a background color of this color I prepared behind the scenes. And then we also want that when the user hovers on the table row, the cursor should be default. Okay, so let us refresh, and this is what it looks like when the user hovers on them. Okay, the next thing is to give some colors to our icons and to make sure that they appear only when they are supposed to appear. For example, on the finished project, the X icon or the close icon only appears when you hover on an item. Okay, let us begin with the colors. We did give a class of close icon to to the close icon. So let us duplicate copy for duplicate the selector for table body. Then inside any table row where we have close icon, that icon should have a color of red. We will do a similar thing for check marks. I will duplicate the selector for close icon, and instead of close icon we are selecting check mark, the check mark icon. So we will set its color to green. And for the check mark, we want the cursor to be a pointer, because we want the user to know that when they click on the X icon, it's going to actually remove the table row. We refresh, and this is red and this is green. And when you hover on this, you see the mouse turn to a pointer, indicating that the user can actually click and remove this row. Okay, we want this to only display when the user has hovered on it. And if you look at the finished project, these other checkmark icons, they do not display by default. They only appear when the user clicks on them. Okay, so by default, none of these icons are displaying. They only display when something has happened. For example, when the user has hovered or when the user has clicked. So we need to add a class called hide to each of these icons by default. So I'm going to go to both of the close icons we have added so far, and I'll add a class of hide to them. That way it's going to hide the icon by default. Okay, hidden. And then I will go to all posts table next, and for each of the checkmark icons I will add the hide class. Okay, so on our project no icon is currently displaying. Now let us begin with the related posts table. We want the icon to display when we hover on any table row. So what we will do is we will copy the CSS selector for the close icon and duplicate it. And then what we want is when the user has hovered on the table row, we are going to apply some styles to the close icon. And those styles simply say we want the icon to display. Remember, the hide class is responsible for a display of none. And now when you hover, we are changing from display none to display block. And when we do that, the item is going to appear. Let us refresh. And now when you hover, the icon appears against the particular table row on which you hovered. Alright, so that's it for the related posts table. The next one is the all posts table, and unlike the related posts table, this one doesn't use the hover effect. You have to click on it before you can view the icon. And this is going to be achieved with JavaScript later on. For now, we are just writing the design, so we are not going to implement the adding and removing of the selector class. So we are just going to style it. Okay, let us go to our code base, the related posts file. So for the checkmark, to select any table row, when we click on that table row, our JavaScript will add a class called selected. And only when we have a class of selected assigned to a table row do we want the checkmark for that row to appear. So let us assume that our JavaScript has added a class called selected to the first row on that table. Now let us use our CSS to demonstrate how the table row that the user has selected should look like. And you already know when it is selected, we want the checkmark icon to display. So let us copy the selector for the checkmark icon in our CSS. Okay, we duplicate that, and of course we know that we want to set the star to a display of block, but this should only appear, or this should only happen when that particular table row has a class of selected assigned to it. And this selected here is this one I showed you a moment ago here. Alright, so let us refresh, and now our first item on the table is selected. Okay, to make sure that this is working on the other table row too, let us say the user then selected the second row. So I'm just going to cut this class and add it to the second row. So we should expect the tick to be on the second row, and that's exactly where it is. Okay, so that's it. This is working. One last refinement I want us to make is for the title of the article whose related post we are selecting. This doesn't really look very attractive, so let us do something about it. We go to our related posts.html file again. We scroll to the related post section, and this is the title of the post whose related post we are selecting. I'm just going to give it a generic class of link, and I will go to our admin styles and scroll to the default section at the very top, and we're going to define a generic class called link, and I want to remove underline, so I will set the text decoration to none, but when the user hovers on the text, I want it to be underlined, so I'll set text underline or text decoration to underline. Let us refresh. Okay, the underline has been removed. You hover and it comes back. Also, I want to change the color a little bit. If you look at the manage posts table, I want to give it a kind of bluish color, just like this text you see here. So we gave these classes or these elements a class of edit. Let me search for edit here. Okay, this is that color, so I'm going to copy that color, and then I bring it up to link. Okay, so I want the text to have this color. Let me refresh. Okay, fine. So this looks good, and I think that's all the work that we need to do on our related posts page. I think this button could be a bit more explicit. I'm going to say save related post, so I'll just copy this and then open related post.html, and instead of save, I'm going to say save related posts, because that's what the finished project says. Related post, it says save related posts. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.